It is Troy Deeney. Hi, Troy.
I'm good. Did the guys just kick you off to get somebody else to do it professionally
Yeah,
then?
yeah,
it did sound like that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did sound
Absolutely.
like they've handed Andy in the face and moved him away from the microphone. That's what he needs.
They'd be right.
Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
you
to you,
too.
Troy. Yeah, we'll come on to tonight briefly in a minute, but a couple of talking points. It's always interesting to get a sort of pros take on this. Yeah, I mean, it's very. I mean, United were great yesterday, as we said. That was a really good performance. But as Andy was saying earlier on, they often do turn up for big games, which will make a few Manchester United fans think, well, was this just a blip? Was it a great performance amidst a lot of dross, or is this a turning point? So, I mean, have you witnessed this? Just turning up for the big matches when you've played in teams, and why does that happen?
Yeah, why it happens, I don't know. I think it's more of a mental engagement, isn't it? But I think everyone fell into the trap of this was going to be a 5-6-0 drubbing for Man United. And I was speaking to Crookie yesterday after the game, and I was saying I'd be more frustrated if I was a Man United fan than anything. Yes, it's a great performance. Yes, they probably should have nicked it at the end. But you can't just turn up like that, but also put a performance in a few days ago against Wolves and say that that's the level now. And I can see why the managers frustrated. Yes, they had a few players back, which had a bit more legs in the park, but the appetite to defend and actually put a foot in was completely different. So it is annoying. We've had it a few times in ours. I remember when we had Etienne Capoue. Every time we played Spurs, he was like Superman. Honestly, the week leading up to it, he was the most. He was professional anyway, but it was an extra level that went up. And then we played Spurs, and he just turned into this ultra-human man. Then the week after, you could play whoever, and he'd be like 10-20% lower.
Yeah,
Just had that team that he always, wanted to play against.
It was kind of, the attitude was right, but their movement was better. They looked crisper with their passing. The whole package, really, they looked very
They had
different.
legs in midfield that made a difference.
That did make a difference.
Do you feel that, the game before, I was asking Crookie this, but he's a Man United fan, but from neutrals as you guys are, did you feel like, I felt like he played Eriksen and Casemiro to kind of say to the ownership, this is what I've got.
Yeah.
Kind of, not throw them under the bus, but kind of just said, look, if you're expecting miracles, we got to get these kind of guys out of it.
Yeah, I can see.
You
I
wouldn't be
can
surprised.
see that.
Yeah, there'd be an element of that.
It did make a huge difference to them, certainly having, as Andy said, having the legs in midfield. The other thing was having your head turned. There's been a lot of talk about that, obviously, in light of Trent's performance. And I think it was our own Kevin Hatchard was making the point. Whether it's that or just there is stuff going on in his life. Big decisions have got to be made clearly by the guy, and his agent will be on the phone a lot. There will be a lot going on. And maybe his eye was just slightly off the ball. Who knows? Maybe he just had a bad game. Players just have a bad game. But because of everything that's going on, we're all reading a lot more into it potentially. But I'm sure you've been in a dressing room with players. I mean, I would imagine Odion Ighalo was a pretty good example of someone who was being sort of, a lot of clubs were after him. I mean, was he affected by what went on, for example?
No, not at all. I think we'll go to Trent and I'll go back onto the other part of it.
Yeah.
I think with Trent, we make this excuse when he has a stinker, and he does sometimes have stinkers playing defensively, because we're not talking about his passing, even though that was poor yesterday. He has a stinker, and it's like, we all just suddenly come to the conclusion that he can't defend. There was a reason that he was playing midfield in the Euros for England. It's because we didn't trust him defensively. And yesterday he got found out. He had a bad game. It is what it is. Like this situation where an agent will be talking to him, he would have known that there's a bid going in. He would have known what the offers are. He knows all of that because the agent's job, like when you're getting a mortgage, is to tell you everything that's going on, what they do. So when I see all of these different conspiracies, and it's because of this, it's because of that, it's actually because he had a bit of a stinker.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You're allowed to have a bad game every now and again. He doesn't do it on purpose. But now we're just blowing it out of proportion, I feel. But going back to Iggy, I remember when we were playing and he got the offer from China, and we just played a couple of days before, and he was like sat there and he was going, Troy, I think I'm going to move. I'm not sure. What do you think? We started talking about the numbers, and I said, mate, you can't turn those numbers down. Obviously, I'm not going to break confidence to tell you what those numbers were, but they were astronomical.
Yeah.
And it was like, mate, what are you doing? What's the conversation? And he said, right, I'm going to go then. Cheers, mate. Just keep working, keep your head down. And this is what happens. And within 3 or 4 days, it was done.
Yeah. I mean, have there been other situations with players where you felt they know they're going, and you're not seeing maybe the same level of performance, or you're seeing distractions.
Absolutely. You start seeing people down tools. You start seeing people go into, a 50-50 that they would have won the week before. All of a sudden is now a 80-20 in the other team's favour because they just don't want to get injured. Things like that do happen, and people are like human. There are life-changing situations. I just think in this situation with Trent, that's certainly not the case. I've done Liverpool games 4 times this season for talkSPORT. I think I've seen him play well once. And then all of a sudden now it's like, oh my God, he was playing top draw. His passing is unbelievable. Defensively, he gets caught out a lot.
Yeah.
You watch all of the games, other than West Ham game in the last month, tell me a game he's defended really well. There isn't one. And everyone seems to just think, oh, because it's Man United, he was suddenly going to start being a defender. He's not that. He's not in the team for that. And you can see Virgil van Dijk yesterday at times getting very frustrated with that side of the pitch anyway. Whether that was directly at Trent or not is up for Virgil to talk about. But the level of concentration just wasn't there.
And criticism aimed at Liverpool that they might have been complacent. Again, does that happen? Did teams go into it thinking, oh, we're going to win this easily? Or is that just the fans?
Did they believe the hype? As you were saying, everybody said it was going to be how many? Was it going to be 5 or 6
We
nil?
all thought it would be 4-0 minimum.
Yeah, we all did think that. I don't think it would have. If they were playing like Wolves, for example, I'd have said yeah. But they're playing Man United. They know what's at stake from a fan point of view, and then obviously media and globally, it's a massive game anyway in itself. But I think they're just trying to get the job done as quickly as possible. And I just think it's just been a case of too many games over the last couple of weeks have just caught up with them. And, they were a little bit off it, but they still could have won the game.
Sure.
It was still an entertaining game. And, they're only going to get better. It's on everybody else to catch them. And I disagree with Martin this morning where he seems to think that Arsenal could catch them. I've got more hope in Man City catching them than Arsenal.
Arsenal are a bit of a mystery, but the way they play compared to how they played a couple of years ago, and and again, it just wasn't a surprise that they didn't win on Saturday.
Did you guys think it was a pen? Because for me, it's a stone baller.
Well, I don't know. I just look at that pen. It reminds me. I'm not a big fan of the pen where 2 players go for a ball. Honestly, one kicks the other one's foot and they go over, make a lot. And it just felt a bit like that. It felt like one of those, but with heads this time. I just don't want to see penalties for challenges like that.
Did you watch the Fulham game? Fulham Ipswich.
Yeah.
They had 3 penalties exactly the same.
Yeah. And
no one's complaining about that and saying, "Oh my God, it's a travesty." But, because it's head-to-head, all of a sudden it's, oh, my God, I've never seen that before. Because it doesn't happen that often. But if it's foot-to-foot, we see that every week. And a lot of times, penalties are given. So this whole, narrative that it's become, the world against Arsenal, it's like, steady on.
I'm not buying that.
But it's this thing about getting a touch negates the foul. I mean, the one in the Palace-Chelsea game where Mitchell fouled Neto, live, I just went, that's a penalty. That is a penalty. And when you look at it afterwards, he got a tiny touch on it, but Neto was still in control of the ball. He still had the ball. If that touch wouldn't have stopped Neto going on to do something with the ball.
We got Keith Hackett on
It just
later.
drives you mad. It's so inconsistent.
Excuse me.
Can I ask you a question just on Chelsea really quickly? Sorry, I know you're going to go to break. But are we convinced with Nicholas Jackson yet, or is Troy still right?
I don't know.
He's having a bit of a blip.
He's young. I was going to ask you that. I mean, the thing is about strikers. It's the same with Højlund. I think there's a player there, but can strikers get better? Do they get better? Or is this a sort of totally natural thing about where the goal is? I don't know.
They can get better. I just feel that you have to have an acceptance that there's so much more for you to work on. And when I look at both of these players, I do see attributes and think, wow, you could be good. But I see an ignorance that both of them feel that all they have to do is kick it at the goal and it'll go in. Like the Højlund chance against Liverpool, he never shifts the ball. He never tries to play it in the corner. Just kicked it straight at Alisson and goes, he saved it.
Yeah. Before we let you go, you're in action for us tonight. You're with Adrian and Sam at Molineux. We're going to have a chat with Dave Edwards from a Wolves point of view later. I still don't think people are taking Forest seriously as they should. Everybody's saying, things will even themselves out and they'll kind of go back to their rightful place, which is pretty disrespectful considering.
I don't think so. As long as they stay
how well they're playing. Yeah, there's players that they can't afford to lose, but the way they're set up and the way they play, I can't see any reason why the backside's going to fall out of it if they keep people fit.
Yeah, I think the key people to keep fit are those front 4. So the 2 wingers, Gibbs White and also Chris Wood. I think they're the extra bit of sauce on top, aren't they? The other guys behind are solid. They know what they're doing. They do their jobs really well. Ryan Yates is excellent in there for them. And I'm really interested to that because I think Wolves are poor with the ball, but Forest don't like having the ball. So it could be a lot of transition today and a lot of, you attack, we attack. And it should make for a good game. One thing I do know, and I'm going to curse myself a little bit, it won't be as bad as Bournemouth Everton that I was at Saturday.
Good.
No, I think you'd go some for that. Cheers, Troy. We'll hear from you later. Thanks very much.
Cheers, lads. Thank you.
Wolves Forest tonight, as we said. Adrian, your host, Sam Matterface and Troy are your commentary team for that one. 8 o'clock kick-off and get your calls into the sports bar. Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy at 10.
Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.